Now, I'll move right into the presentation of the schemes tonight. So, the first cab off the rank is Paul Sanders, who will present the QUT Team's scheme. So, Paul, take us to your scheme. Thank you.
The QUT team was quite a diverse team. Myself and Veronica Garcia-Hansen from QUT staff, but my role was very much about keeping tabs on our various industry experts, being Peter Richards, Justin O'Neill, Tanya Neville, Joe Adset and Yvonne Wang. And I would like to thank all of you for your great input. Okay, so the 5-minute honesty starts now. Thank you. Over 3 weeks. We concentrated on delivering a new type, we hope, to Brisbane, and that being an interlocking apartment, an apartment over 2 floors, which responded to the challenge of favourable orientation towards north, but also to the favourable city view being towards the south. There were a number of other housing types which drew our attention, but this, in particular, this tower block is the one which we've detailed for you now. And the diagram in the centre is key because we felt we also challenged the spacing between towers, not only from the immediate precinct of the RNA, but also from a broad urban scale. So I'll just send that down to the title block. And so, once again, our major offering for your consideration, in particular looking in details, is how this block delivers those properties. And just to review, back 3 or 4 weeks to where we left off at the end of the charrette, the particular site on the southern eastern side of the study area took our interest. The 2 purple blocks were the towers into which this double view and double loading was the consideration. We were looking at other forms of mixed use in between, as represented on the site diagram, but also the sketches and the considerations at that particular point. So that has now come to the development of this precinct with the 2 high towers and the bulk towers at either ends, well over 100 metres apart. And there are thinner towers which we were attracted by Richard Hassel's typology in particular, which probably deliver slightly more expensive units which take advantage of the northerly aspect, but also very importantly with how these towers meet the ground and the very important urban consideration. So these views start to hopefully demonstrate our attempt to pull the towers apart, and there's also some modelling in the top of the impact of the towers at a very broad scale, and there's probably some more work to do here in terms of experimenting with various heights at the city scale in terms of the RNA as a point of density, Wollongabba, Milton and other areas, and what impact that might have. 30 stories or higher we're at the point where that could be something to consider. And also briefly, the importance of incorporating urban landscape and the green system, which is in terms of the specific site, and bringing that into our project, as confirmed from these aerial views, wonderfully modelled by Peter and Yvonne using SketchUp, and quite incredible and dynamic process. So here we are confirming these towers which are having favourable views but also favourable orientation, and they're dynamic. And the interesting thing would be to experiment with whether or not there's some other scope in terms of their height. They are presently 30 stories as shown in the project. We've also developed a study of urban fabrics from around the world in terms of in a very city form and suggested a generic typology of how these towers might sit within a city form. In detail, how each floor has been developed, in particular the central suite of through apartments were the ones which we modelled with the ESD consultants. And there was some toing and froing about the types at the end in terms of how they worked around the core, and invite you to look at the details on the boards a little bit later. But essentially all the units having a tight staircase which links the living space with these interlocking bedrooms at either floors. There's been some frantic analysis in the background and following our late delivery of the information, but just coming through emails this morning was confirmation of some favourable outcomes through the IES virtual environments modelling, which confirmed that the thermal comfort was certainly within acceptable ranges, as well as energy modelling, consumption equivalent to 95% reduction from standard practice benchmark in the Green Star. And there's some details from this particular document. And Rosie handed to me, just as I walked in, confirmation that these blocks actually deliver pretty high and pretty good building economy efficiency, which I think is actually is particularly exciting, combining all those factors. The curveball Shane gave us, and we had a quick collaboration and discussion. I think for me to see an interlocking apartment, which is a famous model from history books, and to see that to be proven to be a viable type for Brisbane is both a surprise and also a delight, both climatically and cost efficiency. There's a myth buster here that certainly from the charrette, the wind above 15 stories is something we can work with. The spacing of towers and the challenge of the 18-metre separation, as well as vertical landscaping. I think particularly Richard Hassel's kind of wonderful offerings he shared with us, that we can really look at vertical landscaping in our buildings. Thank you.